Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jay Michaels, and here we are at Boston Sci-Fi. Boston Sci-Fi 47 years of the premier science fiction film festival, bringing you movies. Now, you might think, okay, sci-fi, that's all, the guy on planet Zoran with the ray gun. No, no. The stories I've heard, the parables that have come across in these movies is absolutely breathtaking. The films we're going to talk about, they're elevated. They elevate in so many different ways. They educate, entertain, illuminate. It makes us think. And let's get started immediately. Michaela, with that lovely soft background that you have there with the little flowers there and that great smile. Okay, tell us about your movie. Watch this. It's this dystopian thing about a creature or something like that. Tell us about your movie.
Oh, well, first, hello, my name is Michaela Tonag. I was the one of the head producers and the head 3D animator for my short film with a couple of my name, Mountain Climber is ours. Myself, our director, Rebecca Snowden, and our production designer, Kat Vanderswag, came together to create this short film that's a mix of live action, 2D and 3D animation to kind of tell a story that all three of us wanted to put on the screen for our senior thesis in our university degree. So Mountain Climber is the story about Climber, who is trapped in this room with no foreseeable exits. And all that they do is they go into a VR headset to experience different degrees of difficulty of mountains that they have to summit. We don't know why, no one knows why, but their progress is being recorded. And overall, the story is sort of a metaphor for our experience in our last year of college as they're summiting their final mountain. So they grapple with themselves and they grapple with the program failing around them as they sort of figure out how they're going to move forward and what they're really doing after they finish their final mountain.
So there's the parable right there. A group of college students climbing a mountain. College is a little hazy to me, but I remember it being quite a climb. And it's interesting. Again, I make the point of your soft background with the lovely flowers behind you, but here you are talking about trapped. I don't want to, don't spoil the ending for us, but he's trapped in a room. This sounds like it could have a very terrible ending. And he has to go into his head to basically figure out how to escape. So you're making a statement again about social media in a way, because we're talking about avatars. He's living into another world to exist when his own world is locked around him. So there's a really dark parable within there. And this is all because college was so tough.
It came for a few different things. The story went through a few different arcs of what it was really going to be. It was loosely based originally off of the Sisyphus myth in Greek mythology. But then our professors told us that the ending was too dark, so we needed to do something different. So then the story kind of evolved. Our director, Rebecca, actually wrote the story our sophomore year of college. And then it kind of developed and grew from there. And when we picked a capstone, like a final thesis film, it was one that all three of us were able to do. So I do 3D animation, Rebecca does live action direction and 2D animation, and then Kat did production design. So Kat built our set, I did all of the 3D animation, and Rebecca did the 2D animation. So it was a way that the story kind of linked, because there's 3 stages in the story. There's the real world, which is where Climber is. Then there's the 3D VR scape, which is where my area of the film was, which is where they actually climb the mountains. And then we have a 2D dreamscape that you get to kind of get a peek inside a climber's head throughout the duration of the final mountain. So it's a story that kind of progressed, and each of us told what was important to us in our areas of the film. So for me, it was the actual getting up over the mountain and animating the weight of attempting to climb such a steep and heavy thing. That's what I did with the 2D or with the 3D animation. And so it was a short that kind of evolved so to allow all of us to sort of shine in our areas of expertise.
It's really interesting because your film walks the walk. You're not just talking about, living in someone's head, you are filming it that way. You're not just talking about, oh, look what happens with VR. No, you're handing us that as well. So you're quite daring in your producing of this film. College, is this the first film?
It was our first film that we did together, like the three of us. But each of us had like an advanced project that we had to do in school, but it was our first like fully finished and like rendered short film that we made together.
There's a story of Spike Lee's graduate film he produced on credit cards, and it eventually made him Spike Lee. So may you have that same level of success to you and your partners. Really love the notion of the hybrid sort of film, because we're living in hybrid now. Every festival is live and virtual. Everything is online. You could, pardon me for sounding like, wow, you kids, what you got here. What we can do with our phones now is incredible. So you're basically showing that within the production of the film as well. Good for you. Good luck. Congratulations. Can't wait to hear more about it. Can't wait to hear the audience reaction to your film. And Eleni, I can't wait to hear the audience reaction to your film. I can't wait to hear about your film. Tell me about it.
Great. So my name is Eleni Rivera. I'm the co-director of The Gazer. My co-director, Spencer Dries, is on here with me. The Gazer is about this man who lives in the desert and owns an alien jerky shop, and he wants to prove that aliens exist, extraterrestrial is out there. And this is a really beautiful, grounded sci-fi about hope and, you know, the yearning for something more in your life. And I think that there's something really fun with this story. And he also has a really beautiful pet lizard, and they kind of, you know, have this little mini adventure together. And well, the lizard doesn't really come in that much, but I don't want to spoil it. But anyway, it's his experience and his drive for kind of proving something that he's always wanted to prove, and what happens once you reach your goals. So yeah.
A pet cause of mine is elevated horror or elevated sci-fi, where it's not about the troll, it's about getting over the bridge that the troll is guarding. It's more the plot device, and it sounds like this is the human drama that just happens to have the fantastical touch. Spencer, tell me some more.
Yeah, so we conceived this idea actually coming back from Las Vegas, where we saw an alien jerky sign on the way in the middle of the desert. I'm like, Eleni, who owns that kind of place? Like, who just in the middle of the desert owns a jerky shop? So we started brainstorming and talking about, you know, hope and all this kind of stuff. And then the pandemic hit, and we shot this during the pandemic. And we're like, this is like the perfect time for this kind of film, because when everyone's so glum and things are not looking up necessarily for a lot of people, we wanted to tell a story that was more about hope and about to inspire people. And our favorite genre is sci-fi, which we like to do. So we conceived the story, then Eleni wrote it. And we just wanted to, you know, go out in the desert, shoot a thing that would give people hope and kind of elevate the sci-fi, but keep it grounded. We never wanted to show the aliens. We never wanted to do anything like that. We just wanted to keep it very, very grounded, but with a touch of fantasy to it, like a fantastical twist to it.
I was going to figure a ginger way of not giving plots away and saying, do we see aliens in yours? I like it a lot that we get the idea. It's more about the hope. It's more about what that brings, as opposed to seeing it. Let it stay in our imagination. It's ironic that you're shooting it during pandemic. I was watching several television programs the other night that happened during the initial lockdown, and one commentator on there made the comment. He said, "That's okay. There's another world beyond this." And I thought, what a great line. And there you are. Here's a whole movie about it. And especially out in the desert, which might as well be a pandemic location. You know, you're far away from everyone. So the notion of hope, of there's another world out there, really excellent, really hopeful. I'm glad to hear that. Good luck to both of you. Can't wait to hear more about this film. Well done. Well done. All these hopeful things. I don't know. In my day, they just blew up the planet. I'm so happy. I'm so happy we don't do that anymore. Watch this. I'm going to now speak to Michael, and he's going to tell me his movies about blowing up the planet. Michael, tell us about your film. Maybe you should turn on the mic. There you go.
I was being polite and had the mute on, but now I have some aliens for you.
Excellent. Excellent.
My name is Michael Levine. I made the film The Dark Odyssey, which is it's a stop motion animation metaphysical sci-fi story based. It's a bit of a journey with it takes place on a jalopy sort of spaceship where a couple crew members are on transit delivering a I guess a captive to their home planet, and this takes place in like a galaxy very close, I'm assuming. One of the many galaxies that aren't too far from here, so it's kind of
Right off I-95. Yeah, I know exactly.
yeah, I mean it's my own world. I created this world out of I don't know, I guess out of my experiences in life, and what it just everything culminated into this movie. I made the whole thing myself. I made all the puppets, I made all the models, I wrote the story, I shot the whole thing, edited the whole thing. I'm a photographer, and as I'm kind of semi-retired, and so this was like I had been writing screenplays and trying to make a movie, so I really did have a grasp on storytelling, and then myth making and world building, and I the pandemic happened, and I think I found myself with a lot of extra time, and I was able to kind of move forward on my animation project. And it's really about it's a lot of conflict, and there is some action, and the crew runs into an asteroid field, and they have a crash, and the prisoner escapes, and there's this battle, and it gets pretty trippy because there's some parallel universe action and some real freaky dialogue and it's metaphysical musings. It's I kind of based it all in like Platonic ideals and the concept that you could really have other ways of existence, and but as a lot of things are universal in the universe, and it's like what emotions are universal and what kind of physics are universal. I don't know if anybody's read The Three Body Problem, but basically anything goes if you know how to explain it. But I just really love this mythology of this world that I kind of improvised. I really improvised the movie. It's about 8 minutes. And I've been building the world ever since. And the Dark Odyssey, I don't know, it just hit a lot of, resonated with a lot of people and close to me. I'm on a Zoom, sorry. And I don't know, it's an artistic, creative endeavor for me to express myself in a way that's different than photography, because in photography, I'm just taking photographs of people. There is a creative element to that, but for this particular craft, it's much more immersive, and I get to really explore a lot of ideas. I had to learn how to animate. I'd never animated before, so it's my first time animating, and so every single thing is a challenge. Just like to make an asteroid field, I had to learn After Effects to move the puppets' hands around was a challenge. But I started to get better at it, and now I'm still trying to get better at it every day.
I give you so much credit. I'll let you know when I figure out Photoshop. Wow. It's funny, there's the story within the story. You're creating this world by learning the softwares to do it. Michaela talked about the Sisyphus myth as well. Mythology, where all of this comes from, the mythology, the ancient Greek mythology, and the pantheon of the Roman gods and the Greek gods. There's a line in the Avengers where Loki looks at Thor as he's summoning lightning with his hammer and says, "No wonder they think we're gods." and
Right, well,
it's really godlike to create.
There's a
this
godlike
mythology.
element there's an exploration of God in my story where it's really one of the characters is very scared of they have a God that's basically, he calls the spider. And it's like, it's whether you believe or not in God is kind of part of what they're going through, and the battle that the struggle between there's an actual, if you zoom out on the world, you can see that there's a war going on between two worlds. And it's a very I don't know, textile project, because all of the materials are like old junk, old computers, old garbage. Basically, it was how I made the sets. And so it's kind of got a little
Like
bit of
it's like another mythical creature. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. You're taking
there you go.
these obsolete
So,
things and turning them into the future.
It's retro future.
I'm glad you mentioned God. I was going to make a pithy remark to another filmmaker in another interview about well, it took it took God 7 days to create. It took God 6 days, and he had to rest on the seventh to create the universe. But it seems these filmmakers are creating universes in 5 days on a limited budget. So I give you so much credit. You know what? I congratulate you personally on saying, I want to do this movie, so I'm going to learn these softwares.
Well, also the hardware. I mean, that physicality of it was
the whole works on that.
the sewing machine. You have to learn how to use a sewing machine.
I give you credit on figuring out how to thread a needle to make this movie, because that's what it's all about. It's like, I want to create this universe, but I'm going to start with 1 grain of sand. And
right. And I wanted to do something that was different. Also, that was my own thing. That was one of the kind of driving forces. Was I felt like I just had, I've seen a lot of animation where you're trying to replicate like the real world. Everything's a miniature of exactly what we have. And I was really I just didn't want to go down that road. I wanted to find.
That's why I talk about mythology, because yes, of course, you create a copy of this world. Too easy. No, let's make another world entirely. Good for you. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see your world. And maybe it's a nicer world. And maybe that's I
think it's pretty. It's not that nice there, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Arthur, tell me about your film.
Hello, my name is Arthur Venema. I'm a filmmaker here in Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. My film's a short film. It's called The Atomic Spawn. Little poster there for everyone to see.
Oh, that's a great title. It sounds like those 50s movies that I love so much.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's a 1950s monster film. I grew up with Godzilla and King Kong and those kinds of films, and I've made a couple of short films now, and I said I want to make my own monster movie now. So taking inspiration from Ray Harryhausen, who was doing stop motion monster movies back in the day, I learned how to do a stop motion monster. And I had a wonderful local artist here, Patrick Charles. He created this little monster for us. There he is, right there. Waving at everyone. So that's a Tomo.
The sense of patience one must have in stop motion. All right, film it. All right, film it. All right, film it. Thank you. To hear that someone is taking the old rubber monster and putting it into the 21st century with parable. What's the film about? What's the storyline?
Well, it takes place in 1952 on a nuclear testing site in the West Desert. It follows the story of a lonely worker. He doesn't have any friends there, and he finds this little egg that hatches into the monster. And that's just one of our puppets. We have 2 other puppets throughout the film as it grows, and he has to keep it secret from the bosses that are watching over him, the evil boss. And as it grows, he has to deal with it getting bigger and more dangerous. So that's our little short film.
Not so short, and it's not so little. What you have here is the parable of birth. This person finds an egg, nurtures it, and has to contend with it growing.
Yeah,
If you take out the fact it's a sci-fi film, it just sounds like life. So what you've done is exactly what I thought. Like I said, you've taken the rubber monster of the 1950s and handed it to us with a parable that is so deeply moving to us. And your smile, you're going, I didn't know I did that.
I didn't know I did that.
There you go. Really well done. Really great. I'm going to sit back with a box of popcorn and I'm just going to watch your movie. Oh, good. Bring me back to the rubber monsters. There you go. Atomic Spawn. I have to remember that one.
The Atomic Spawn, super fun, good for all ages, I think. It's a fun little movie. Yeah.
A pink rubber monster, of course. I'll bring my nephews to see that one. Christopher, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher has been complimenting you all during this because it took him a while to log on. I don't know whether it's his Wi-Fi or mine, but I saw, the little circle down below for the longest time, and then suddenly he appeared. And the moment he did, he was like, and he listened to every movie. There was one point he was fixing something and he stopped and he turned. So all of you are being very commanding in terms of telling us about your movies.
I'm super.
Command us.
I find what everyone in this festival is doing so compelling, probably for the same reasons that you do, Jay, because it seems like we've all kind of made something from nothing, just of our own artistic visions, and that's pretty cool. And it's in some ways unique to the era that we live in which filmmaking has been, a little demystified. I shot my movie with this iPhone that I talk on every day and send text messages on. I made a feature film for $5,000. It took me a while. Took me
Not the
5
movie on your
months.
iPhone.
Yeah, baby.
Tell me about the movie. Tell me about the plot.
In the film Hydrometer, a war journalist comes back from the front in the middle of the pandemic, and he's been living on the road and has no place to go. But one of his contacts from New York City, which is really his home, has a cabin somewhere way out in the mountains. And our main character travels there and is basically minding his own business when he stumbles upon a witch, and she has a captive. Now, he knew there was some strange creature in the forest, and he even joked with himself that maybe he had discovered the elusive Sasquatch. But this lady has an alien. She's got it in a cage. It was trapped there on the mountain decades earlier. And with her background in science from Duke University, she has figured out a way to derive a psychogenic drug from its blood. This drug gives humans the ability to manipulate the physical world telekinetically. And so, of course, being a seasoned and grizzled journalist, our main character thinks initially about how he can get the photos of this alien and the story about what this woman is doing out in the world until he has his first actual contact with this thing. It's just like you or me.
This is sort of like, it has the motif of American Horror Story. Let's take this genre and this genre and this genre and this genre.
Interesting. I hadn't
put
thought
them
about
all
that. I am a
together.
big fan. Oh, yeah, interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yours is a parable yours is a parable within a parable. You are taking the Sasquatch, you are taking witchcraft, you are taking everything, you're taking all of this mythology within our lives, and then saying, okay, let's take all of this mythology and put it in the ultimate form of mythology, the ultimate wizard's trick. and doing the movie. I can almost see you there. Okay, and action. Wow.
Well, there were only, it began with 3 of us and a little bit of grip and lighting equipment, but it was taking so long to shoot everything. Our friend Heath had to leave after 15 or 17 days. And then Stefanik and I shot for another 5.5 months. And it was a very organic process. You know, I wrote the script really as the script barely made it beyond the outline stages. And it was very much rooted in my own experience. I was by myself in a cabin, about an hour into the mountains from Asheville, North Carolina. And after having been in seclusion for a couple months, I started to hear things in the forest. And I wrote a little outline for a script, and based on what I was really going through in my own head. But there was some weird shit out there, man. Like, there was hiking through the woods. I found some airplane wreckage. I have a bunch of additional footage that never made it into the film. There was really strange stuff in that forest, and I was super isolated. And my friend Steph was down to, who I've known for like a long time, was down to come down and sort of explore it with me. And then my buddy Heath was only a couple hours away, and we all just kind of powwowed and started to churn out these scenes. And you know, if a scene wasn't really working, like I would go back at night and we would edit the footage. And then if something wasn't working, we would just reshoot it. And then if it still wasn't working, we'd reshoot it again. And because there was no pressure, because there was no budget, there was no timeline. None of it, we were all professionals in the industry, and we weren't working because it was the beginning of the pandemic. So that created an environment in which we were able to really just create with the sort of freedom that I'd never had before, at least in,
That's
in
great.
the industry of film.
I lost you for half a second, but I think I lost 2 words, and I was able to fill in those 2 words because of my my Wi-Fi and whatever. It strikes me as very interesting. You remind me of one of my favorite lines from Hamlet. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. And just by the fact you're walking in the woods and you find these things and you hear voices, what's going on? You know, we look around us and we, you know, again, here you go. You filmed it with the ultimate wizard's trick, but imagine what's really out there that this cannot just justify.
And Jay, think about the hysteria that was occurring at the dawn of the pandemic, and think about the kind of mass psychogenic illness that we were all beset by during that time.
Of course.
You know, which now has passed and waned because the pandemic has been normalized for us somehow. But in those initial few months, everybody was terrified, including me. And so it was easy to let my imagination go. I had a stockpile of food, I had a broken down car, and I had my iPhone. And luckily I had a couple of friends who were willing to come, you know, hang out way out in the middle of nowhere in the mountains of North Carolina.
Let me correct you completely, and I'm correcting everyone who may think this. It's not easy. You're just brilliant. Period. All of you.
Thanks.
There are far too many people out there who, when the pandemic started, they bought, you know, 8 months of potato chips and watched Tiger King. That was it. You all, nothing wrong with Tiger King. Yeah, I know. But you all have said, okay, wait a second. There's something else out there. There are more things in heaven and earth. And suddenly we get this magic that you've all created. So Christopher, I compliment you on hearing those voices and then putting it to film. I won't say film, putting it to phone. And then
Get to phone, committing. Right. I committed the story to a phone.
That's right. and then handing it to us via Boston Sci-Fi. I congratulate you, and I congratulate all of you on, like I say, taking your imagination. First compliment, you didn't just sit back, your imaginations explode. Second, even under the worst circumstances, this pandemic, you allowed your imaginations to breathe and go where you physically could not. And then the big congratulations. You said, I'm going to hand it to the world. So here is my movie. Congratulations, all of you. I look forward to your films. I look forward to hearing more about it. I'm going to get to the next group. So I just want to say thank you. Best of luck to you. And I can't wait to see the audience reactions for your movies.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
My pleasure.